In honor of the new year, I thought I would do a little reminiscing and thinking about older me, younger me, I should say. And that is in the times where I used to think that being told that I have RBF was like the worst insult that somebody could ever tell me. And now looking back at it, I see it as like the biggest compliment. Or not even compliment necessarily, but the biggest like relief. Like, oh, I'm so grateful that that's how I was perceived. This is also relatively new because growing up, I always wanted to be seen as like super sweet and friendly and bubbly and happy go lucky and adorable. But as I started to kind of like get more familiar with dating and men and stuff like that, I kind of started to realize like how lucky I was that I didn't have that sort of vibe to them, because it made me a lot less approachable, and that did me a huge favor because I got to weed out a lot of the losers. you know I never thought that I ever seemed intimidating. I'm a very outgoing, sweet person, but not really coming off that way saved me a lot of time. I think that our body language and the way that we appear, unfortunately, a lot of people judge what they think is going to be your personality just based off the way you look. You get what I'm saying? So for me, I realized that when you have like an RBF or a more serious, kind of cold look to you, a lot less people are going to approach you. And I don't really think that that's like mind blowing or anything. I think a lot of people kind of, we got that sense already. But man, it saved me so much time because so many people that would have tried to come and play in my face decided.
I'm not even gonna attempt it with this one because she kind of looks like a bitch.
And granted, back then I kind of feel like I looked even more like a bitch than I do these days. But having those people see what they saw and step back, because I've been told that I looked very intimidating and that was why I was not approached. It kind of gives you a lot of power that you might not realize that you actually have. So definitely see the benefit in it if you haven't already, because people are looking at you, they're categorizing you, they're making assumptions about you. And if you present too laid back, if you present too carefree and like, oh yeah, just anybody can talk to me and it's no big deal, a lot more people are going to see that as an invite and are going to, approach you. And not necessarily that something terrible is going to happen, but you kind of get a bigger pool of people. If you're appealing to more people, you're going to have a bigger pool of people that are approaching you. But quantity does not equal quality. So it means you're going to have a lot more garbage options and garbage people that you actually have to sift through, and that takes up a lot more of your time. But if somebody approaches you despite them thinking that you look intimidating or whatever, they view you as somebody who has a lot of self-respect, so they still are willing to go in there and shoot their shot. And typically, I'm not saying always, but typically it is people who want somebody who takes themselves,
Oh gosh.
I almost choked on air, who takes themselves seriously, and therefore they will start to take you more seriously. If people don't, if people get the sense that you don't take yourself seriously, they're also not going to take you seriously. And I just said seriously like 12 times in that sentence. But people do make those assumptions and people run with it, and it's really hard to change their minds. First impressions are lasting impressions. When you meet somebody, especially when it's somebody that you're interested, you want to kind of be careful with how you present yourself, because you don't want to seem too easygoing and too accessible and too chill, because that's the energy that they're going to give back to you, and they're going to see that and they're going to be like, okay, what is the energy level, that like the effort level that I think I can give this person? And if you're too like down here and like chill and like low key or whatever, they're going to give you chill effort. They're not going to be high effort. So if you appear like you are a higher maintenance person, yeah, you're gonna have a lot harder of a time finding somebody. But when you do, you're probably gonna have to waste a little bit less time dealing with garbage people. You don't want to be too appealing to too many people. It's not really a good thing. You can be seen as beautiful to a lot of people, but just because you're seen as beautiful, that doesn't mean that people are going to approach you a lot. And that's kind of hard for some people to wrap their minds around or come to terms with, because a lot of people think that if you're not being approached by a lot of people, then a lot of people are not finding you attractive. That is not the case. You want to be approached by quality options, not just like anybody. And I've noticed too, like when I dress in a manner that is a lot more chill and a lot more casual, I do get approached more than when I put in more effort. And it makes sense. At first, I did not really think that that would be the case when I was younger, anyway. I couldn't really like understand why I got approached a lot more frequently when I was in like sweats or, you know, a very low effort outfit than when I was really put together. But now that I understand how people work and I understand that people view that as intimidating and they want somebody who's just like very easy to talk to and very approachable, I was like, oh, okay, that's why. And that's not the look that I want to have, because I don't want to be approached by just anybody. I want whoever does approach me to be somebody who looks for somebody who looks like they take themselves seriously, because I do take myself pretty seriously, like in terms of just like, don't waste my fucking time and do not play in my fucking face. So when you give that off, people are gonna see that and they're gonna be a lot more hesitant to fuck with you, especially when your personality also kind of matches it. Because like, I'm not afraid to call people out when I'm being treated in a way that I don't want to be treated. And I used to be very like
meek and shy.
but this is how we use that phrase, fake it till you make it, to your advantage. Because I had this RBF, this really bad RBF. And people always thought that I seemed so confident, and they were like, you seem so sure of yourself, and you seem like you know exactly what you want, you don't play around. And when I was like, that is not true, but I just kept hearing it over and over and over again. And then I really started to internalize it. And I started to just constantly, whenever I like thought lowly of myself, I would remember,
Wait a minute.
but why am I saying that when everybody else is saying this and people are saying that they were intimidated by me? Okay, so I must be that way. So when I started to internalize that, I started to at first be like, but I don't want to seem that way. But the more and more I thought about it, I was like, wait a minute, this is really, really good. And that also really did help me in terms of my confidence level. It really did give me a huge confidence boost, because that's when I realized people are not seeing the flaws in you that you see in yourself. They don't see it. They see something that we can only wish that we could see in ourselves, but the thing is you can. You're actively choosing not to see it, whether you realize it or not. And that is really how you hinder yourself. That is how you accept bare minimum behavior from others. And that is how you constantly accept yourself talking down to yourself, because you don't think that you're worth anything. You don't think that you're confident. You don't think that you are radiating high levels of energy or whatever the fuck you want to call it. So I'm not really saying that you should just go throughout life caring what people think of you, but I do think that when people think something of you, especially if it's highly, take that and be like, if other people see that in me, why don't I see that in myself? And why don't I start carrying myself like that, and even just pretending that I am that person for the sake of getting to that if I don't already feel like I am? When men started telling me that they found me very intimidating, I didn't really know how I felt about it, because I know me, and people who were very close to me know me too, and they were like, "Oh, you're not like scary or anything." But I don't have like a ton of like dating experiences, and I honestly do believe that it's because I make it really obvious when I'm not interested in talking to somebody. When you have that RBF, you have this power. You have this ability to set the tone to whoever wants to talk to you, romantic or not. To throw this blanket on because I'm frozen. But a lot of us don't realize this, but we actually have so much more power in the way that we get treated than we think we do. If you have to sit there and verbalize how you think you should be treated to somebody, immediately that is not your person. Like, that is not your partner, and you should not want that to be your partner. Because, you know, our nonverbal cues, our body language, the way we present ourselves, the way we carry ourselves, that is indication enough to how we want to be treated, to other people who are perceiving us. People are not stupid, but they are kind of cruel. They look for weakness in people and they look to see, how is this person carrying themselves? What can I get away with? Do they look shy? And, I'm not saying that shyness is bad by any means. I'm actually a very shy person. But do they look like, sunken in and like
unsure of themselves?
Those people are typically so sweet, but they're a walking target. You don't want to be a walking target. You want to weed off the people who don't know, or not even know, who just don't want to treat you the way that you deserve to be treated. People like that are looking for victims. So to kind of get rid of those people, make sure that they're not coming up to you, you have to present yourself like, yeah, don't waste my fucking time. I'm not scared of you. I'm very confident and I'm very self assured, because then you are a threat. You're a threat. They will be scared of you, and that is exactly what we want. You have a lot more control than you think with how people approach you. We might not think we do. We might think like we could do everything right and it could kind of still all go wrong. But trust when I say this, that somebody who seems unsure of themselves, somebody who seems too low effort,
Too chill.
as people like to say, they're typically, in my own experience, people who kind of have to go through a lot more trials before they're able to kind of get the right thing. Remember, nonverbal communication is like 50% of communication, if not even more. Actually, I think it's a lot more than 50% of communication. Words are one thing, but your body language says a completely different thing. I could sit here and tell you that I'm insecure all day, but if I'm carrying myself with so much confidence, you're not going to believe me. If I'm telling you that I'm confident, but I always look like I'm so worried about what people are thinking of me, you're never going to believe that. Who would? I wouldn't believe me either. Remember, people don't see what you're insecure about unless you let them see what you're insecure about. If you just kind of pretend like they don't exist, nobody's going to know that they exist. And they could exist to you, but it doesn't have to be for everybody to know. Just remember that RBF is your best friend when it comes to saving yourself a lot of time and a lot of unwanted interactions with literally anybody. It doesn't even have to be romantic. It could just be like anything. If you Even like a job interview, for example, like if you go in there and you're talking like everything is a question and you're unsure of yourself, why the hell is that person going to want to hire you? It's the same way with just people and like how we perceive people. People are going to respect people that come off like they have respect for themselves. They know what they're talking about.
Shit, even if you don't.
Just carry yourself like you do. Pretend like you do, and it will kind of start to grow on you. That perception that you are so confident that would come from people, to me, I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe that people used to always tell me like that I seemed super confident and like I knew exactly what I wanted. I couldn't believe that people got that vibe from me, because it's not really how I felt on the inside, but I carried myself like I did and I didn't even realize that I was doing it. But then when I started to get more conscious of it, I just got even better and better at it. And eventually I did fool myself into believing that, hey, like I am high effort, like I am very confident, I do know what I want. And then when I came to portions of my life where I wasn't so sure what I want, I was able to communicate that in a more mature way where it was more serious and it wasn't childish. Like
I don't know what I want.
I still was able to kind of guide myself in like a right direction, because I was actually internalizing what people were saying about me. If people always felt like I was confident, I felt like, yeah, I had to step up to it. I would step up to it. That was a perception of me that people had, I internalized, and it was a good one. Sometimes it's bad and you don't want to internalize those things if you think it's going to be detrimental to your health, your mental health, anything that could be negative. You don't want to internalize that crap, and it's really hard to know when to draw the line. But when it's something that you like, if it kind of is like, oh, that kind of made me, that was like a good take that you got from me, even if it's not how I feel, but I want to adopt that. I want to actually step into that, and I'm going to keep remembering that you said that whenever I don't feel that way, and I can remember, hey, but somebody does think of me in that way. So I'm going to fulfill that, and I'm going to live up to that, and I'm going to be that. Remember that also the way that you talk to yourself is kind of the version of you that you're going to continue to put out there. If you keep talking down on yourself and you keep treating yourself like garbage, that's going to start to kind of permeate. People are going to start to see that version of you, and you really
Don't want that to happen.
and it's inevitable. That's the thing too. So I had to really catch myself around people who constantly kept feeling like I was super confident. I was like, I don't want them to see like a negative version of myself. So I really do need to change how I view myself too. And I need to see what they see in me. And that was a choice. It is a choice. Confidence is a choice. Saving yourself from negative interactions that you don't want to be in, that's a choice. If you don't feel highly of yourself, you're going to accept the bare minimum, even less, because you think that you are not deserving of anything better. Why would you do that to yourself? You wouldn't talk to the people in your life in that way, I hope. So why is there like an exception when it comes to ourselves? I don't get it. It's hard, like I get it. It's hard to like wrap your mind around the fact that like I could just like snap my fingers and become confident or use something that could be perceived as negative and turn it into a positive, but I did it, and I'm really really grateful that I did. I I would not have had it any other way looking back at how things went. Like I said, I don't have like the biggest like dating history, and I really do feel like because of the version that I like to put out there is not something that indicates that I want just anybody to talk to me. I really make it clear that like I'm not here to just like chit chat with any random person. I'm also pretty introverted, so that helps too. I don't really like to just engage in pointless conversation. If I'm uncomfortable in a conversation, I'm going to make it kind of clear that like, I want to step back. And you don't have to be rude about it. You can be very polite. That's the thing too. It's like RBF does not mean that you have to actually be a bitch, but like you just need to know when to be a bitch. You know what I'm saying? And being a bitch does not mean like you're being this horrible asshole. Like it just kind of means like let's use bitch in a good way and think of it as like somebody who like I know my boundaries. If you're overstepping, I'm going to step back and I'm going to make it very clear. And like I said, nonverbal cues are really big on that because people they're not dumb. They know how to read you. They're just if they're not, they're just choosing not to. And of course, you're going to find some bad apples in the bunch where they kind of people refuse to recognize your nonverbal cues and they're going to still keep trying to overstep your boundaries, but that's when you actually get verbal. If they're not listening to the nonverbal body language, then that's when you actually get verbal with them. Anyways, with that being said, that's kind of how I used like my RBF to my advantage. That's how it kind of helped me come into myself. That's how it helped me be more confident in my own skin and stop comparing myself to other people and thinking of myself as insecure and quirky or whatever, and thinking of myself as like a high standards, high effort kind of person.